and welcome to another weekly update. Welcome to the first weekly update of 2024. I hope you're doing well. Took a couple of weeks off just because of the way that the Mondays fell, Christmas Day and then New Year's Day. Didn't make sense to be doing updates then, but we're back and we've got some things to talk about. So let's jump right in because I'm going to keep this one to 10 minutes. All right, first of all, I want to talk about a blog post by Ryan Weaver, who's a fellow developer in this space, the Microsoft space. He works over at Landis Technologies, and he's got an interesting blog post about contact unification. So the actual message center item that he refers to, let me show you actually so you can see what I'm seeing. The message center post he references talks about how Microsoft are unifying or allowing Teams contacts to show up in Outlook. Now, for a while, Teams contacts really have been their separate thing. It's not sort of been something that you can see in Outlook, and it's been separate from the whole Outlook contact system. That's now changing, so that if you create contacts in Teams, they're going to show up in Outlook. But actually, what this means, which is what Ryan actually kind of points out, is what's really interesting is that because they show up as contacts in Outlook, that means they're part of contacts in the regular stack, and that means you can get to them from Graph, specifically the contacts endpoint in Microsoft Graph. So that's huge if you need to view or modify Teams contacts using Graph, because now you can, or soon you will be able to. Depending on whether or not this is rolled out to you. It's rolling out right now. It should be complete by late January 24. This is good news for developers, and this removes, you might have had a sticking point, like a blocker in this area. So if you want to manipulate contacts in Teams, you now can. What I don't know, and which I don't think is shown in here, is whether or not you can tell, whether or not they come from Teams, whether or not you're looking at these teams. That might get easier to see with that sort of unification, because it might be that more contacts flow into Teams. So you see all your Outlook ones as well, and it doesn't really matter. It's the same list. You see it in both places. That would make the most sense. And that would kind of mean that, these things are less of a problem. But anyway, this is good all around. It's good to see. This feels like it was a rough edge, to be honest, that Microsoft just didn't fix for ages and have now fixed, so that is good. It never made sense for contacts in Teams to be separate from anywhere else. All right, new functionality coming to the Teams App Store and the Teams Admin Center, specifically to allow admins in Teams Admin Center to quickly and easily open a private Teams chat between themselves and a third-party app publisher. So this is a really interesting idea. So basically, as I understand it, because this is all super new and is kind of still rolling out, so we're going to have to see how this looks. But as a Teams admin, when you're in the admin center looking at a particular app, there'll be a sort of display that says "Talk to the publisher." If the publisher has opted into it, if the tenant for that publisher allows private chat across tenants, and if everything lines up, basically, it's going to open a one-to-one chat window between the publisher and the admin, so that the admin can ask any questions that they might have prior to installation. If any of those things are not true, I think it's going to default to an email link. But this is interesting. I think app developers, you can decide whether this is good or bad. I think everyone's going to take a slightly different stance on this. In general, I think it's good to give admins a quick way to ask questions around things like security and compliance. I hope it means that, or I hope it doesn't mean that admins will get lazy, not look at the documentation they've been given, particularly the publisher attestation certification stuff, because developers go to a huge amount of effort to fill that attestation out. So it'll be annoying if admins are kind of lazy and be like, "Do you use SSL?" when actually they could just go and read that stuff. So, but this is good. This is rolling out. It'll be interesting to see how it's used, how much it's used in the real world, I think. But it's one of those things that sounds good, but will anyone actually use it? Let's find out. All right, so just a note that... so for the next thing, a note around apps in Teams meetings, and specifically that they are coming to the DOD, Department of Defense environments. Those kind of super lockdown environments that Microsoft 365 has for particularly challenging customers or customers with very specific needs. And up until this point, you've not been able to have apps in Teams meetings. That's kind of changing. Specifically, what's changing is that custom apps that are built for your org, so there's line of business apps, built for meetings and calls, are available in both GCC, GCC High, and DOD environments. But it is still true that third-party apps for meetings and calls are available in GCC, but are not available in GCC High and DOD. So what that means is if you're in a DOD tenant or a GCC High tenant, if you've built your own apps for meetings and calls, that's fine. They will show up. But you can't use third-party ones. And honestly, that probably aligns pretty well with how those types of environments tend to operate anyway. They tend not to be like super up for inviting third-party apps into their environments anyway. So that I think that works. All right, let's change and shift gears completely. Let's focus more on the developer rather than on the teams. And just one of those things I picked up over Christmas whilst reading lots of things was something from the Google testing blog, which I used to reference in the past quite a long time ago. Haven't referenced for ages, but they keep putting out good stuff. And it's part of their Code Health series. I think they went through a period of time, or they still go through a period of time, where they distill down some of their best practice around testing into a series of small snippets of posters, infographics, and post them on the back of their bathroom doors for their developers to look at when they're otherwise occupied. But this is a blog post that's kind of come out from some of that, and it's around letting code speak for itself. And I posted it in here because I thought it was interesting, and B, I agree with all of it. So I definitely feel like this is how I like to use comments, and I get frustrated when people don't use comments this way and they use them for the wrong reasons. So lots of good advice in here about what comments should be used for, and some good examples of both good and bad practice. So that's worth looking through if you write any code, and just figuring out if you're see where you fall on that fence around whether you're using comments appropriately and sensibly, or whether you're using them kind of unnecessarily verbosely and kind of not particularly helpfully. So some of that is down to good method naming as well, to sort of rid yourself of the need to describe what a particular method does, because if it's obvious from the method name, then your comment can focus on either the why or any kind of edge cases to be aware of that are not obvious from the code. But describing what a method does should not necessarily be part of the comments if it could be done some other way. Anyway, lots to read through there. And then finally, I just wanted to remind you that all the way back in November 2023, I went to the last conference of 2023 that I went to, which was ESPC in Amsterdam. It was a great conference, and it took me a while. It took me a couple of weeks then after that point to get the video out about it, just because there was so much that had happened. I had so much footage, and just trying to distill it down took a while. But I did do that, and I posted that kind of after all of the weekly updates went out. I posted it on the 20th of December. So I wanted to bring it to your attention just so you know that it exists. It's on YouTube. You can go watch it. There's a blog post that I did here just kind of talking about it and linking to the video. The video is only about, I think it's 20 minutes long, something like that. And it kind of covers just what it was like to be there. I try, because it's impossible, not to focus too much on like the content of sessions, because like that's a bit pointless. You can't make videos focusing on the content of the sessions particularly, but I did want to showcase some of the speakers that were there and the speakers that I went to. I focused more than usual on the keynote because there were some key announcements, including some things that were not announced at Ignite actually, that made it into here, which is kind of very cool. And yeah, so that's what I did. I thought you might want to be interested in know about it, and so you can go check it out. All right, keeping it under 10 minutes, I'm going to say have a great week, whatever it is you're doing. It's great to be back in 2024, and I will see you again next time.